Good day. Welcome to First Take on a Feel Good Friday. The one and only Tim Tebow, always with us on Fridays. Good to see you, sir. And of course, Stephen A. Smith. I'm Molly Karam Rose. Gentlemen, how we feeling? How we doing?
How's everybody doing? I just got a quick question for Tim Tebow before we get started. He's usually in the sunshine, hanging out outdoors, just chilling, getting a tan and all of that other stuff, making everybody else look ugly in comparison. Let me ask you this question, Tim Tebow. Where are you this morning, man? Where are you?
Well, you know, I have to do an event here in Indianapolis, so I'm here in the beautiful city of Indy, and we're enjoying it. It is a little cold. I got to be honest with you, Stephen A. It's a little bit chilly here. Is it as nice as if I was in Florida? Not quite, but it's a great place. Beautiful people, so I'm going to enjoy my time here and probably not complain quite as much as you would if you were.
Are you sure you're going to be okay? I mean, after all, it's a little cold. I mean, we don't know how Tim Tebow's going to respond to that. We don't know. We don't know. We always see him in the sunshine. We don't know if he can handle the cold.
He can handle it. I'm sure he's got a great coat.
Hey, listen, guys, it's just 24 hours, and then I'll be back, okay?
Okay. Let's do this. Speaking of what happened almost 24 hours ago, Thursday Night Football. So in 2019, Dolphins head coach Brian Flores lost his first game as a head coach to Lamar Jackson and the Ravens 59-10. Flores, he didn't forget, redeeming himself in primetime last night. The Ravens were held to their fewest points in a regular season game under Lamar Jackson, 10, as the Dolphins' blitz-heavy approach kept the offense in check. Jackson faced the most defensive-back blitzes, 24, by any quarterback since 2015 in the loss. Coach John Harbaugh taking the blame.
Bottom line is this falls squarely on me as the head coach. We were not prepared the way we need to be prepared. Our schemes weren't up to snuff, and we weren't prepared to execute the way we needed to. So that's it. Not on one player. Our players played their hearts out. They worked hard all week. They did everything they could to be prepared, and we just weren't ready.
I was hot. We weren't scoring no points. We started putting our defense out there. They played a great game. Dolphins had their little play. They had their great plays on offense, but I feel like our defense played lights out, man. We just wasn't getting it done on offense. That's why I was mad. If you was on offense, you would be mad too.
All right, you can make a case Thursday night was Lamar and the Ravens' worst regular season game during his time in Baltimore. Their 10 points were the fewest in any regular season game with Lamar, while their 94 rush yards were the second fewest. Stephen A. Smith. Did Lamar Jackson lose MVP in last night's loss?
I wouldn't say he lost it, but it's in grave jeopardy. I can tell you that much. You can't lose to a 2-17, devoid of any kind of offense whatsoever. You show up and look like that, even though it wasn't entirely his fault. I applaud John Harbaugh for taking the brunt of the blame because they clearly were ill-prepared. There's no question about that. You had corner blitzes all over the place. There seemed to be something totally foreign to them. Miami's defense hadn't changed. They didn't change their look at all. Nevertheless, Baltimore didn't make any necessary adjustments, and as a result, they ended up losing this game, being held to 10 points in the process. When you take that into account, and then you look at the rest of the National Football League, you see the way Matthew Stafford is playing. You see the way Tom Brady is playing. You see the way Aaron Rodgers is playing. Obviously, Josh Allen, he's fallen off a little bit as well because make no mistake about it, losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars last week by being held to 6 points is definitely something that's going to be held against him as well. Again, you don't want to say this early that they've lost it, but it's definitely in grave jeopardy because I know when, voters, when you had usually with the NBA, I have a vote. With this, I do not. But when you look at it from that perspective and you think about the voters and what they look at, Tim Tebow, the bottom line is it is inescapable that people are going to point to this game when they're judging you against the other great dudes in the league for that coveted trophy. There's no doubt about that.
No, there is doubt about that. They're not going to point back to this game. You know why? Because if you point to this game, then when you bring up Stafford, you could point to the last game against the Titans, where he threw several picks in the pick six that lost the game. If you want to bring up other people, you could bring up Dak Prescott against the Broncos. He's having an unbelievable season. But every one of the players right now has had a bad game. So if you want to say he's out of the picture because of this game, you have to bring that up to the rest of the players. Like Lamar is 6th in passing. He's 4th in rushing in the NFL. He's doing it both ways. Yes. Were they out-schemed? Absolutely. Did Miami have a great game plan? Yes, it's the NFL. Sometimes that happens. But to say he's not 1 or 2 right now, him and Brady for the MVP, I just don't think that this game mattered that much. They're 6-3. They still have a shot, and people are going to remember December and January way more than they remember the second week in November. I think he absolutely is in a great position for the MVP. He's dominated this entire year. Did they take a step back? Absolutely. Will people remember it? I don't think so, because if they get back on track next week, people will be like, okay, you're back, you're 7-3, you're good. Every other MVP candidate has had a step back. Every single one. This is really one of the first for Lamar. He's dominated every other game. I think he'll be just fine. If he gets back on track, if they get back on track, he still controls it.
Tim Tebow, I don't understand how you, of all people, can make that argument. You know, I'm talking to a Heisman Trophy winner. That's what I'm talking to. I'm talking to a Heisman Trophy winner. I remember when you played, okay? Yeah, I think you had 30 touchdowns and just 4 interceptions that year. You win the Heisman, if I remember correctly. 2007, I remember. But here's the deal. Every single game counts. When you're going up against, it's not just about your performance. Of course, we're going to bring up how Matthew Stafford suffered. Of course, we're going to bring up how Tom Brady wet the bed in their 1 loss, or so the 2 losses, actually, they suffered, one against New Orleans earlier this season as well. We're going to look at Tom Brady. We're going to look at all of those things. But in the end, moments like last night count. And you as a Heisman Trophy winner, you know that. You could have 12 stellar games, but you stink up the joint for 1 game, and that could cost you a Heisman, depending on who you're going against. Again, this is not going to stop you from winning the championship, but it could cost them, Tim. You know that.
It could cost them, but I'm saying it's not going to, because every other candidate has had a performance, has had a night, has had a day just like it. Some have been a lot worse. Right, and because of that, because of all the other games, how dominant he's been with his arm, with his leg, doing really what, I mean, he's kind of in a league of his own, is what the Michael Vick has done it, Steve Young has done it, but his ability to be 6th in passing, 4th in rushing in the NFL, that's crazy. So yes, when there's 1 game where he gets blitzed a lot and they don't have a great plan against it, does it hurt? Absolutely, absolutely it hurts. But everybody else has a game you can point to as well. But most of them have 1, 2, or 3 games. This is really the first one for him where he hasn't played up to Lamar's level. And I think people are going to remember more of what happens after this than last night.
Okay, that's possible, but I will say this to you, and I'll throw this to you just to end this conversation. You know, Tim, when Tom Brady, who, by the way, has 25 touchdowns on the season, 25 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, completed about 67% of his passes, he's got 2 losses. One was against the Rams. The other was obviously against New Orleans. We look at Matthew Stafford. They got shellacked by Arizona. We get all of that. We look at Lamar Jackson. You lost to the Miami Dolphins, who were 2-7 coming into the game. Jacoby Brissett was their quarterback last night before Tua Tagovailoa comes in. Those are the kind of things that ultimately has weight or holds weight when it comes to individual awards. It doesn't take away from the greatness of Lamar Jackson. There's no doubt about that. We know how phenomenal he is. But in the end, we're going to look at this game and you best believe it's going to count against them when it comes to that MVP situation.
Yeah, let's move it forward here, guys. They were 8.5-point favorites, and the Ravens face Chicago this Sunday. Let's go big picture in the division, though, fellas. The Ravens are in first place, 6-3. The Steelers 1 win behind them, and the Bengals and Browns both 5-4. You can take a look at it right there. Tim, who's winning the AFC North?
Ooh. I still probably give a little bit of a nod to the Ravens. I think they got to get a few things figured out. I also think the Browns are going to make a push. I think you saw last week they played one of their best games of the year, and I think Baker's going to improve. I think their team, when they get healthy, this pass rush, Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett, nobody is going to want to see them when they're all healthy. When you get both of the backs healthy, I mean, it's just a really hard team to stop. So if they can make a push at the end, I think they have a chance. But I also really like Baltimore because of their versatility and their ability to win the physical matchup, especially when it gets cold. I think that'll really come into play, so I still give the nod to Baltimore.
How dare you mention Cleveland and Baltimore and don't mention the Steelers? Now, I could do that because I'm emotional when it comes to the Steelers, and I obviously hold them to a higher standard because Steeler Nation stand up. But you, I mean, you're supposed to be a little bit more objective, Tim Tebow. Cleveland. Listen, we don't know what Cleveland.
Did you watch Cleveland play Cincy last week?
I
did
watched
you watch the game?
And they shellacked. Yes, I watched the whole game, and they shellacked They shellacked Cincy. I give them
They
credit
did.
where credit is due. I've also seen them give up 47 points to the Chargers. I've also seen them be sporadic.
Sure.
And Dan Orlovsky called them the most disappointing team because of their talent based on their level of production. You expected more from them. And I'm looking at the Steelers, who clearly has a stationary quarterback who's age 39 and on his last legs, who has an offensive line that's just basically been pieced together. And somehow, some way, they're 5-3 in second place, just a half game out of first place in that division. And you don't even mention them? You don't even mention them?
But, Stephen A., do you really trust them down the stretch, right? When you have a piece together offensive line, when you're trying to find ways to score, yes, their defense is playing really well, and I still love Big Ben. He's still a guy that has ice water in his veins at the right time, man. But when you look at the talent of Cleveland, why you say Cleveland is because, man, when they put it all together and they play like they did at the end of last year, that is a scary team, man.
Yeah, Tim, let me help you out here. Stephen A. had a funeral for his Pittsburgh
Yes, I
Steelers
did.
on the show.
I said I was emotional.
There was an actual funeral.
I said I was emotional.
Don't even defend it, okay?
I said I was emotional.
Let's just move on. Yeah.
Was
very,
emotional.
very emotional.
He's supposed to be a little bit more objective about
buried
the
him.
AFC North. We ain't talking about the Florida Gators
Excuse
here.
me.
We talking about the AFC
Excuse me.
North. He could have been objective.
You buried your
Listen,
team.
Stephen A., it's just because you got a really big heart. That's why, you know? You just really care.
Yeah, and you know what, Tim? I'm working on softening it slowly.
It's going to take time. It's going to take
Ryan,
work for everybody to be on the same page. Him to learn what we're doing and how we go about our business, and us two working together and all that kind of stuff. But it's one of those things where everybody on our team carves out their role. They do a great job of figuring out what that role is going to be, and going out there and proving it. Both on the practice field and in games, and getting those opportunities. I know he'll do the same. I'm just. There's a lot of time between now and that, and we just got to make sure that we're on the same page, go out there and play ball.
All right. LeBron knows all about the Cleveland to LA trek, welcoming Odell to the city of LA on Twitter. Stephen A., I'll start with you here. Who's under more pressure to make this work?
Oh, I believe it's Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. Listen, we're looking at Odell Beckham Jr. right now, 17 receptions for 232 yards. Do we really believe there was that much slippage in Odell Beckham Jr.? I don't believe that. I believe that Odell Beckham Jr. still has what it takes. Now, is he the guy that he was 5 years ago? No, we can't say that. But I'm going to look at him and say 17 receptions for 232 yards on the season. Oh, no, I expect more from Odell Beckham Jr. And when you look at Matthew Stafford and that arm that he has on him, there is no question about it what they're capable of. When you look at Sean McVay and his play calling and how he wants to air it out, that's definitely a plus as well. And regardless of how Cooper Kupp has looked, and he's been absolutely sensational, and the chemistry between him and Matthew Stafford can't be denied. When we think about Cooper Kupp, when we think about Robert Woods, as talented as they are, because they are talented, at the same time, we know what Odell Beckham Jr. can bring to the table, and it ain't just in regards to their vertical game. This brother is just a flat-out elite receiver as far as I'm concerned, who can still do some things, and it's going to be up to them to make sure they utilize Odell properly.
Before we get to Tim, I just want to make sure your position is clear. So the Rams are contenders.
Yes.
You think they could potentially win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
They're winning. They're excelling. But they're under more pressure.
Yes.
Okay. Tim?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes. To make this work.
Okay.
Yeah, well, first of all, we should go back to last week when I did say that he loves LA and the Rams would be a perfect fit. And I love this signing. I love it for so many reasons. I think the scheme really plays to Odell's, his ability to run routes, to press on the toes of a DB and do double moves with all the play action they do. I love this signing. I love that he can kind of take the place of Deshaun Jackson as that deep threat, that double move guy. So I'm excited about that. I absolutely believe they're contenders. They could absolutely win a Super Bowl. But who's under more pressure? I believe it is absolutely Odell Beckham Jr., and here's why. If it was the beginning of the season, I would have said McVay, I would have said Stafford, but they're 7-2. So you know what happens if they go downhill? Do you think people are going to look at McVay and Stafford? They were 7-2 when this happened. I think they're going to look more at OBJ of what happened. And listen, guys, I hope it works out. I really believe it will. I believe it can. I believe Odell has so much to offer. He's an unbelievable player. I love his moxie. I love his big game ability. But I think under more pressure is Odell. I think Stafford and McVay have shown what they can do. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Van Jefferson, these backs, they've shown what they can do. But how does Odell fit into the mix? Like, how is he going to be able to work in? How is that going to be able to fit into the culture, into the locker room, into getting together? You heard what Stafford's talking about, right? They have to be able to get on the same page because all the other receivers have been on the same page. So that's why I'm going to say I think there's more pressure on Odell.
No, I'm not buying that. Matthew Stafford is a quarterback. You were a quarterback, Tim Tebow. You didn't put the onus on somebody else. You took it. When you talk about chemistry and the fact that that's something that needs to be developed, that's on Matthew Stafford. I mean, listen, Odell Beckham
and if
Jr.
I was and if I was Stafford right now, then I would take it again. If I'm the quarterback, I would take it. I'm saying from an outside perspective, how are we going to look at it? Stephen A., they're 7-2. They're dominating, right? Yes, they've had a couple of bad weeks, but man, when they're on, they're clicking and they're killing it.
Let me just say one thing. They don't need OBJ, Stephen A. OBJ
How do you
needs
know
them.
that?
You could
How
argue.
do you know that?
Because they're 7-2.
Okay.
They're 7-2.
In the NFC.
Pump the brakes, ladies and gentlemen. Pump the brakes. Number
Not
one.
the AFC,
Number
the
one.
NFC.
First of all, finish eating your breakfast. Let me handle this, Molly. Okay, because she was eating breakfast for the show. All right, that's number one. Just eat your breakfast. I got this. I got this.
Story that happened
Hey, man.
was I was so
That's the most
hungry.
important meal of the day. Most important meal of the day, Stephen A. You eat breakfast.
Lunch for breakfast, and I started the show with chicken on my face, and no one told me.
That's
So
right. I didn't know. I would have told you.
Well, I didn't actually have a return monitor, Molly, so I would have told you if I had a return monitor.
I believe you would have.
Here's the deal.
Stephen A.,
Here's the deal. 7-2 is fine. Has Matthew Stafford ever won a playoff game? No.
He was in Detroit.
Sean, let me finish. I'm not holding. I know that. I know that it wasn't his fault. It's Detroit. I'm just saying. He's never won a playoff game. Sean McVay struggled over the last couple of years because of the chemistry between him and Jared Goff. That's why he bounced Jared Goff out of there. We're looking at the Los Angeles Rams and all the moves they made. Odell Beckham Jr. isn't the only move they made. They acquired Von Miller just a few days ago. We understand that they're going for it. Jalen Ramsey, they acquired him last year. You still got Aaron Donald. You look at that defense. Everybody expects that defense to be elite, particularly when it counts. On the offensive side of the ball, what do? You lose your running back Akers to start off the season. What happens now? You still got Woods. You still got a Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Now you add Odell Beckham Jr. We are looking at the Los Angeles Rams collectively, and there are expectations that come with it. And if it doesn't happen, we ain't going to just look at Odell. We're going to look at Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford as well.
Okay.
What's the problem?
Well, you're going to look at them.
Yeah, but the question is who's under more pressure. Now, of course Stafford's under pressure. Of course McVay's under pressure. Of course the defense is under pressure. Jalen Ramsey, the whole team is because they got a collection of superstars. But more, I think it's Odell.
Yeah.
I think they got to make it work.
Okay, let's agree to disagree because I need to move on. I need to move on from this conversation, please.
That's right.
Go eat breakfast, man. Go eat breakfast.
I already ate. Well, go ahead.
Too many carbs, man. Too many carbs, Stephen A.
Yeah, exactly. I had low-sodium chicken broth. It was very healthy and delicious. Okay, Tim, now that Odell got his wish, what should be most important to him in terms of focus?
I think it's still showing that he's elite, which I believe that he is. You know, not necessarily does he need to have 6 catches for 115 yards. Doesn't necessarily need to show that he's a #1 receiver. But I think he, at spurts in big games, he needs to come up with a few clutch catches that Odell has done for years. And I believe that he's going to do again. And I think he needs to be able to show that he's still elite, right? And he's not going to, I don't think he's going to get a bunch of touches. I think they're still going to spread the football out. That's what this offense is. But when he gets a chance on some third downs in the red zone, again in big games, because you know they're going to have a lot of big games down the stretch, to still show that ability, right? 2 or 3 catches a game where you say, wow, that's different. That's a playmaker. That's a difference maker. Just like Deshaun Jackson has for years, right? Deshaun didn't necessarily catch a lot of passes, but man, when he did, he made them count. And I think that's what Odell needs to really show.
I don't disagree with you there. I get your point, but I would tell you that he needs to resemble at least a #2 receiver. We know that Cooper Kupp is Stafford's primary target. That's not going to change. You don't build that chemistry in the offseason from the moment that you arrive in Los Angeles. Have it work for you to the degree that it has worked for them thus far this season and go away from that just because Odell Beckham Jr. has arrived. So Cooper Kupp is still going to get his 11 to 12 targets per game. That's basically it. But we got to remember that the Rams, particularly when they've struggled this year offensively in winning and losing, primarily it's because everyone knew they were going to Cooper Kupp. Everyone knew that's who Stafford was targeting. And as a result, they overplayed that, dared you to beat them another way, and the Rams struggled in that regard. You got to make sure that Robert Woods and Odell Beckham Jr. are on the same level, that they're just as formidable enough that you have to pay so much attention to them that in some respects, they can be that kind of decoy that you need that will enable you to target Cooper Kupp a little bit more. These are the kind of things that they're going to do with Higbee, with Jefferson, and those boys. They're throwing the football. They're not running it that much anymore. And because of that, there's no excuse not to target Odell Beckham Jr. and to make sure he's a formidable asset that opponents have to reckon with.
I feel like if the Rams are able to make this work and Odell's able to make this work in the locker room with the culture, with showing signs of elite, I think the upside for Odell is still back to a superstar, right? Whenever he can, in the offseason, find a new deal, maybe it's with the Rams, somewhere else, whatever, I think if he can make it work, I think you'll see so many teams change their mind again and say, hey, we need to go get that guy. He can still be elite. He can still be a playmaker. And I think if he can figure a way to, get on the same page as Stafford, I still think the upside for Odell is incredible. So I'm really hoping that they can figure this out and make it work.
I think it will work, and I think it's a win-win both for Cleveland and for LA. All right, gentlemen, we'll take a quick break. Still ahead on First Take, Superman HBCU football weekend. Here are just a few of the matchups. We've got Jackson State looking for their 9th win of the season against Southern. Enjoy the games and, of course, the bands.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Stephen A.
It's important.
It added a little flavor and spice to it. All right, what a star-studded NBA Friday doubleheader we have for you on ESPN and the app. Giannis in the Bucks in Beantown to take on Jason Tatum and the Celtics, 7:30 Eastern. Then Steph and the Warriors, the top team in the West. They host DeMar DeRozan and the surging Bulls. Our coverage starts with NBA Countdown at 7 Eastern. There's some good games. All right, back to football. It all comes full circle for Cam Newton and Matt Rule. Cam is back with the Panthers, playing for the coach who let him go. A source telling Adam Schefter the deal's worth $10 million for the rest of the year, $4.5 fully guaranteed, $1.5 roster bonus. Newton, who had been released following the 2019 season from the Panthers, played 15 games with the New England Patriots before being released in training camp. The Panthers began searching for quarterback options after starter Sam Darnold suffered a shoulder injury on Sunday that would sideline him for 4 to 6 weeks. Coach Rule, what type of decision is this?
This is a disciplined decision. This isn't like this is an excellent player who's healthy that wants to be here, and I'm excited. We have a team that we feel like can win. We owe it to our players to try to go win. We owe it to our fans to try to go win.
Okay. Who wants to start here? You want to start, Stephen A?
Whatever.
All right.
Let's do it.
Is this signing about box score or box office?
It's about box office. It's an easy one. And I mean, Tim Tebow can't possibly disagree. Mr. Box Office himself. I mean, there's nothing to talk about here. I mean, listen, when you look at Cam Newton, let's pay attention to this, okay?
Oh, okay.
Cam Newton didn't have the greatest year last year, even though he completed 65% of his passes in the 15 games he played for the New England Patriots. Mm-hmm. We all know COVID was crazy last year, really interrupted and threw a monkey wrench into the 2020 NFL season. We got all of that. And then, obviously, he lost out on the job to Mac Jones this year. Cam Newton has never been an elite passer. He's been an elite athlete. He's been an elite performer. But he has never been the most accurate passer in the world. Let's understand that. The reason why that's important is because when you look at this situation with Carolina, if he was, and if they had believed in him, they would have never let him go. Now, in fairness to Cam Newton, in 2018, they were off to a 6-2 start. Norv Turner was the offensive coordinator. Cam Newton looked absolutely phenomenal. He hurt his shoulder in that 9th game, I believe, against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they proceeded to lose 7 straight because he was never the same, and he ultimately sat out for the rest of the season after about a 5-6 game losing streak. His shoulder was jacked up. We got all of that. He hadn't been the same since. When you look at Cam Newton now, considering that essentially, when you really think about it, he's about 3 years removed from really being himself. Why would Matt Rule in Carolina bring him there? The dude is beloved. Now, I went to Winston-Salem State, just an hour away from Charlotte, North Carolina. I frequent Charlotte often. The city loves Cam Newton. He's an iconic figure in that town. His philanthropy and everything else that comes with it. The guy's a sensational person, has done a lot for that area, just means the world to those folks. Mm-hmm. They love this brother. Right now, they're 4-5. Their quarterback played horribly over the last several weeks in Sam Darnold, even though they do have some talent. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and those boys, Christian McCaffrey, just a stud. At the end of the day, when you look at Cam Newton, there is no question this is about box office appeal because you're going to come see Cam Newton. You're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers because of Cam Newton. They're going to be on your mind constantly because of Cam Newton. Make no mistake about it in that area. He's that big of an attraction, and that has everything to do with why he's there right now.
Dang, Stephen A., is it ready for commercial now? Molly, do we still have time at all or no?
He likes to play ball control.
We're still good?
No, we're good, we're good.
Hold on. Stephen A., we got to back up. Stephen A., we got to back up for a second because, hey, a lot of people might not have caught it, but I caught a little jab you threw in there about the old box office. You know, hey, maybe it was, but I do remember at least I remember one box score against Pittsburgh. I don't know, but it's just hit my memory. So, hey, let's get to Cam Newton, though, okay, Stephen A.?
I still haven't forgiven Ike Taylor for that. Still haven't forgiven him. Go ahead.
Let it go.
Let's get to Cam Newton and what Matt Rule said. And I think there's one thing that he said that is so vital and critical and important.
Okay.
Healthy. Healthy, healthy. If Cam Newton is healthy, he's still special. I really believe that. And I believe that he's been training like crazy for an opportunity. And is he box office? Yes. But that doesn't mean that he's not box score. I believe with the talent around him and their defense has the third best efficiency, seventh best scoring defense. It's a really good defense. They still have playmakers. Now, they need to adapt the offense a little bit to him. You know, it's a new scheme. It's a new system. He's going to have to come in and learn. That might take a little bit. But I still think he's so different than everybody else that he still has a chance to be special if he's healthy. I don't think that Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers said, hey, we're just going to go, sign this guy to fill seats. I think they said, hey, we evaluated him. We believe he's healthy. We did our due diligence. And if he can be even close to what Cam was in the past when he was healthy, he can still be special with their playmakers and with their talent around him. And remember, they're not that far out of it. They're right out of the playoffs right now at 4-5. And you have the few teams in front of them, like New Orleans, that's trying to figure some things out. Obviously, Tampa's playing extremely well, and they're a really good team. But there's still a chance that this team could make a run and possibly make the playoffs.
Well, I'll tell you this. I won't disagree with you there. What I would say specifically is that the next 4 weeks are going to matter. After Arizona, which is this week on the road, you got the Washington football team, the Miami Dolphins, and the Atlanta Falcons. If you got anything left, you should be able to show it over the next 4 weeks.
Winnable
and if he doesn't, it's not going to be
all
good.
Winnable.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you think they have a chance to make the playoffs?
I give them an outside chance. I just don't like their chances. I'm just looking at the rest of the NFC, considering what's going on in the NFC West with Arizona and L.A. in the South, with Tampa and New Orleans in the North, with Green Bay, obviously the NFC East. They got an outside shot, but it's an outside shot.
Yeah.
You know what? I would even say this. If Carolina could make a run with their defense and Cam Newton being healthy with their playmakers around him, if they could make a little push at this thing and get into the playoffs, I don't think they would be a team that a lot of people would want to see. With their defense, with how Cam Newton can control the game physically downhill, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, man, I just don't think a lot of teams would want to see them in the playoffs either. That could be a dangerous team.
No, absolutely. I think you're right, Tim. I think he still has something left in the tank, but he hasn't had a fair shake. He had injuries, and then he had COVID, and he got bounced out because of COVID twice, so now he gets a real shot. And at least, obviously, it has to get up to speed with that offense, but at least he's comfortable there. So hopefully it won't be that much of a learning curve.
I'm not going to say he didn't have a fair shake. I think he had a fair shake in New England, and I think what you did, if you Bill Belichick, COVID last year, but this year, you know what? You didn't get vaccinated, and ultimately you ended up out. That's on you. He made that call. He got vaccinated.
He might be box office, but he's also box score, Stephen A.
Yeah.
Box score, too, all right?
Stephen A., maybe he should have got immunized. Maybe that would have been better.
Immunized, yeah.
All right. More first take up extension.
I believe so. I believe you look at what they did last year and their run in the playoffs and being able to win. Does he have the stats that necessarily you would want? No, but I don't know you're ever going to fully get it in this offense. It's a run-first offense. It's a play action. It's a throw the ball down the field. They don't do all the jet sweeps, tossing it, get your completion percentage super high, that a lot of these other offenses do. So you have to look at their scheme and how they run it. And I think when this team all comes together, I still think they have a shot to go really deep in the playoffs again like they did last year. And I think if you pull Baker out, I think you pull one of the biggest leaders on the team. I think the team has seen him play in big moments. I think the team has seen him play under a lot of pain with a lot of toughness. And I think his ability to rally that team is important. He's been there for a while. He's handled the pressure. I think he is worthy of an extension. And I think the other option is if you don't give him an extension, you look for someone else. And who are you going to find that's on the market that's better than Baker right now? And obviously, are there some quarterbacks? Yeah, there's 8 to 10 that I think are better. But man, I think he gives this team, this city, so much life and belief. I think it would be a mistake not to give him an extension.
It's a tricky question because does he deserve an extension? Yeah. How much? See, that's where it gets tricky. That's where it gets tricky.
What does that mean? Hey, if you say it like that, yeah. Does that mean that it's like yes, but I don't like it, or what? Like, what does that mean?
What would you give him? What would you give him?
Let me break it down. Let me break it down for you. Well, I look at Baker Mayfield, and I'm looking at his record as a starter. It's like 27-26. Nothing to really ride home about. They're 4-4 this year. Nothing to really ride home about. He's got less than a 2-to-1 TD to interception ratio. Okay. Nothing to write home about. I'm looking at this guy right here, and I'm saying, excuse me, if you want to tell me that he deserves an extension, okay, does he deserve to remain the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns? Well, sure, because who's available out there for you to get that you can definitively say is better? But when we're talking about true extensions, we think about Dak Prescott's extension. We think about Josh Allen's $258 million extension. We think about the extension that Patrick Mahomes got before them. We think about Lamar Jackson and what we anticipate he's going to get. Baker Mayfield don't belong in that conversation. Not even close. And let me tell you something. When you look at the Cleveland Browns, you talked to Tim about them being a run-centric offense. Well, why is that? It's because of their quarterback. If you had Patrick Mahomes...
It's because of their scheme.
No. The scheme is predicated on the personnel you have available to you. You know that better than me. You played, I didn't. You know that. You don't just come in there with a scheme. It doesn't matter what the talent is, and this is what we're going to do. You look at the talent that you have.
You adopt your talent, but they are a 12, 13 personnel, big personnel, and run the football first. That's what they want to do. And they're successful at it, so why would you blame them?
Time out. Don't get slick with me, Tim Tebow. You heard what I said. I said you look at the personnel first, okay? And then you make the determination based on your personnel what you want to do with it, okay? So if I got Drew Brees or Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes or something, I could fling the football all over the place. If I got a Baker Mayfield, damn it, I want to run the football first. That's what I want to do, because what I don't want to do is depend on him slinging that football to take me to the promised land, because that's not going to pull it off. I got Nick Chubb. I got Kareem Hunt. Hell, we're going to run this football, because if we're going to rely on Baker Mayfield to fling the football all over the field, he's been exposed enough where we know we ain't going to win that way. That is a fact. That's all I'm saying. So based on that, give him some money, extend him, but understand there's levels to this, and he ain't on that level.
Yeah. Well, still, bottom line is you agreed with me, right?
Really?
There was a solid soliloquy of a lot of things, but you still agreed.
Okay. We went down some turns, some curves, up some hills, and then we just got back to the same spot.
Okay. All right.
It was beautiful.
That was Stephen A's version of a very frustrated way of saying, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
He didn't like it, but he did.
It was this. I'll pay him, but I'm not going to let him set the market or anything crazy like that. All right, guys, I'm excited.
I'm going to pay him, but I don't like it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to pay him, but so much That's my point.
Okay, Mr. Grinch.
That's right.
I'd like to move this
Hi,
forward
Grinch.
because I'm excited by or Scrooge or whatever you want to be. That's what I wanted, Scrooge, not Grinch. I got my Christmas characters messed up. First, let's worry about Thanksgiving. Okay, I'm excited about this game in Foxborough, but obviously we know the Browns might not be at full strength, could not have Nick Chubb with COVID. Their other running back, they also don't have Kareem Hunt. Stephen A., which team do you think is a bigger threat this season? Is it the New England Patriots or is it the Cleveland Browns?
I think based on what we're seeing, it's the Patriots because of the coaching of Bill Belichick. I mean, the man just continues to amaze. When you look at the New England Patriots at this particular moment in time, what you got to get caught up in is the fact that last year, the reason they struggled by and large, everybody kept pointing to their offense. Defensively, you had about 8 or 9 guys who didn't show up because they didn't want to play due to COVID. And so, right now, the world was in an uncertain place. There was no vaccine at the particular moment in time. And guys just were not interested in risking themselves and their well-being to play football. That's just the fact. And 8 or 9 guys didn't show up for the New England Patriots last year. That was not the case this year. They're back. They've been balling. Their defense has been opportunistic. They make plays. They score points. They wreak a lot of havoc. And so when you look at it from that perspective, you got to give credit where credit is due to the greatness of Bill Belichick. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I've always been a Mac Jones fan. I was asking the question, why was this guy not going to be a top 3 pick, Tim Tebow? Because I looked at him in Alabama last year. I would remind everybody the brother completed 77% of his passes in college football last year, playing for Alabama, who won the national title.
Settle down.
So he comes into the NFL as the reigning national champion. That's who Mac Jones is. And to see him quarterbacking the way that he has been, acquiring Nelson Aguilar, obviously Bourne has been an upgrade. You look at, they still got to run an attack. I'm just saying I can't rule out anything with New England because they keep games tight and close. They defend. You don't go into any shootouts against New England because they're not tolerating that. And that's why I say that's what wins come playoff time, more so than anything else.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Coach Belichick is doing an unbelievable job. What he's doing with their defense, they are so opportunistic. You're right about that. And I love Mac Jones. I think he is going to be elite in this league. He's only getting better every single week. I love the kid. But I think a bigger threat this season, when healthy, it's the Cleveland Browns. You look at them and you have unbelievable defense line that can get to the quarterback. You can run the football with 2 dynamic running backs. You have a play action game because of your running game that can be so deadly. Look at what they did last year, and they gave Kansas City everything Kansas City wanted. And by the way, that was a different Kansas City team than this year. That was a special team. And they were so close to pulling that game off. I think they have the recipe to be so dangerous because they're also so different than so many other teams in this league. Because there's still that 12, 13 personnel, run first, play action. It's different. So all these teams that are getting ready for the spread, when they face Cleveland, it's like, oh boy, we got to buckle up a little bit more. And I think because of that, because of their depth from, their top player to their 53rd best player, all of them can compete, and it makes a really dangerous team come playoff time.
Mm-hmm. Let's go. Brady versus Belichick Super Bowl. We won it last year. There's a shot, a small shot. It could happen this year. I'm telling you. I got a water cooler stat for you guys. This is a good one. The last time the Browns beat the Patriots in New England, 1992. That was when Bill Belichick was the coach. I know you're going to use that one, Stephen A. He's probably going to tweet it out as we speak. All right, still to come on the show, why Ryan Clark. Oh, did Southern Steve get a lisp? I'm still stuck on that from Ryan. What's going on, Ryan? All right, his camera's taking a couple hits. Meanwhile, guys, we appreciate you ending your week with us. Plenty more First Take this hour after last night's loss as SARC lost any confidence in Lamar Jackson. Plus, Stephen A. calls him the accident waiting to happen. Should Cowboys fans be nervous? And with the latest injury news and the Chiefs' struggles, what is going on? Who really is to blame, Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid? All that coming up. Keep it locked. OBJ going back to Cali and with a contender and then some. Odell Beckham Jr. agreeing to a contract with the Rams. The free agent wide receiver will join a high-powered offense led by Matthew Stafford and add to a depth chart at the receiver position that already includes Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Van Jefferson. Beckham Jr. essentially replaces veteran wide receiver Deshaun Jackson, who was released after the trade deadline last week. Jackson signed with the Raiders this week. Matthew Stafford, are you excited?
It's going to take time. It's going to take work for everybody to be on the same page. Him to learn what we're doing and how we go about our business, and us two working together and all that kind of stuff. But it's one of those things where everybody on our team carves out their role. They do a great job of figuring out what that role is going to be, and going out there and proving it. Both on the practice field and in games, and getting those opportunities. I know he'll do the same. I'm just. There's a lot of time between now and that, and we just got to make sure that we're on the same page, go out there and play ball.
Ryan Clark not feeling it. I hate it. Okay, Ryan, tell us how you really feel. Obviously, they have the LSU connection. Stephen A., I'll come to you on this. We're working on getting RC back, dealing with some technical difficulties. Did OBJ make the right decision?
You're damn right he did. I love it. I don't know what the hell RC talking about. I love this move. Love it. I don't see how RC can hate it. What's wrong with him? Spending too much time in Louisiana. That's what the problem is. Nothing wrong with this picture. Listen, Odell Beckham Jr. is made for the bright lights. Odell Beckham Jr. is made for some place like La La, Tinseltown, the bright lights, Hollywood, not Mollywood, Hollywood.
They're similar.
This is what it is. They are very similar. Here's the deal. The bottom line is when you look at Matthew Stafford, somebody that can fling the football, certainly Cooper Kupp is going to be your primary option. Certainly you can't ignore Robert Woods and the impact that he's going to have along with Jefferson and Higbee and the rest of the targets. Yeah. But Odell Beckham Jr. coming there elevates the aerial assault that L.A. is going to be able to throw at opponents. So far, have you been there? It's a phenomenal.
I haven't, but I heard it's incredible state-of-the-art facility, and I can't wait to go.
It is incredible. I was hosted by the ownership for the Chargers a few weeks ago that had blessed me by allowing me to be in the suite. It's a fabulous, fabulous stadium. It's off the chain, okay?
So much for me to pick up. You're just dropping so many names.
And the Rams being relevant as Super Bowl championship contenders definitely elevates their level of appeal. But then when you bring a showman like Odell Beckham Jr., who uses stuff like this to elevate his own level of interest, that's a very, very important thing. When you just in a place, playing football is obviously important, but there's more to it than that. He went from Gotham City to Cleveland, from the bright lights of Broadway to Lake Erie. Not exactly the same thing, okay? Now you go to Tinseltown, it resonates more. And I think that L.A., that environment is made for Odell Beckham Jr. I know what RC is saying in terms of the individual success, numbers-wise, statistics-wise, but in the end, when you look at this environment, their offense, the way that they play, the play calling of Sean McVay, the arm that Matthew Stafford has on him, and the bright lights of the big city that obviously Odell Beckham Jr. gravitates to, it's a match made in heaven.
I get it, and I get that the city had a lot to do with the decision. I love Los Angeles. I understand all of it. There's a few things we need to address here, Stephen A. First, I want to start with that Matthew Stafford sound.
Okay.
He didn't seem extremely enthusiastic, but personally, I thought he played that well because he wasn't like overly excited. It was, okay, we'll see how it works. And he kind of kept the low profile. What did you think of his sound there about OBJ coming to town?
I think quarterbacks are a clique. They're a fraternity.
Okay.
And when you are fresh off your daddy going on social media and highlighting what the quarterback didn't do to facilitate your success in Cleveland, Matthew Stafford, like any human being that plays the quarterback position, would be looking at it and saying, okay, so what if I don't get you the ball more? Your dad's going to have clips on me too? Is this what I can expect you to happen? And that's why we all lamented Odell Beckham Jr.'s father doing what he did by putting out those videos, by putting that out on social media, because it begs the question from other quarterbacks, is this what you're going to do to us? If something like this happens here, if we ain't getting you the ball enough, if you all of a sudden become dissatisfied, is it going to happen to me too? That's what it is. And so if you're Matthew Stafford, again, you understand the obligations that come with the quarterback position. You understand some of the pitfalls, some of the trials and tribulations, and you expect things to be handled in a better fashion. And the fact that Odell Beckham Jr.'s father did what he did, which obviously gets attached to Odell Beckham Jr., whether he's innocent or not, that's something that will give you cause to pause. And I think that's what you saw from Matthew Stafford.
But did you like it? Because I feel like he showed some leadership and he set the tone there.
Well, listen, he set the tone. You got to go. We got to see if it works, but you got to come here and produce. He's got to produce too, and I'm cool with that. It's not a problem because he's right. Listen, I'm the star quarterback for this team. I'm the one that's flinging the football. I had the pleasure once years ago of interviewing Joe Montana. When I interviewed Joe Montana, I asked him about T.O. and other receivers and situations. Said, what would you do? He said, I'd go up to them and be like, evidently, you don't want the ball too much, do you? You understand? In other words, he was saying, I'm the quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's going to decide whether you get this football or not. It will behoove you to act accordingly. And I think that's what you see from Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford ain't giving in to all the hype. Go out on the football field and show us what you got.
I have another bone to pick with you. What do you often call me on the show?
What are you talking about? You're Benedict Arnold.
A Benedict Arnold.
Yeah, you're a traitor.
You are the ultimate traitor right now to that bad man, Aaron Rodgers, and you're all cut up in the bright lights of Los Angeles. Because Stephen A., he was almost potentially going to deal with the Packers. And if you're talking about him getting stats, it's just Devontae Adams there. We had a laundry list of wide receivers we just mentioned with the Rams. How could you do this to your bad man?
Well,
be in a celebratory mood.
Let me tell you how I can do that to the bad man, because it's Odell Beckham Jr. in this personality. I think it's more suited for L.A. than Lambeau Field, number one. Number two, and more importantly, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is long for Green Bay. And so as a result, Odell Beckham Jr. is going to end up just wanting to leave after the season. Even Devontae Adams hasn't signed a contract extension as of yet. You know why? Because Aaron Rodgers' future is still up in the air as it pertains to his tenure in Green Bay. So if I'm a receiver, it matters who the hell the quarterback is going to be, especially when I'm just coming from Cleveland and I wasn't happy with Baker Mayfield. That's why L.A. is a much better situation for Odell Beckham Jr. than the Green Bay Packers. I'm not betraying anything at all. I'm just spitting facts.
All right. We're going to leave that there. We'll have much more on this situation, and especially if he'll be disgruntled with the locker room, how he'll fit.
Well, Ryan's thing's not working because Ryan was a bit hesitant to come on the air and defend that ridiculous point he was making about Odell Beckham Jr. That's why his camera's down. That's why it's not working properly. He needed a little extra time
We miss
to prepare
Ryan.
himself.
We miss Ryan.
To prepare himself
But
to
you
come
know
on
what?
the air against me on this
putting you
point.
on the hot seat,
You know what I'm saying?
Benedict Arnold, so I enjoyed it.
It's not a hot seat.
Guess what? Rob Ninkovich is ready for us.
All right.
So he'll be with us after this
feel
quick
you.
break. Dolphins head coach Brian Flores lost his first game as head coach to Lamar Jackson and the Ravens 59-10. Well, Flores didn't forget redeeming himself in primetime last night. The Ravens were held to their fewest points in a regular season game under Lamar Jackson, 10, as the Dolphins' blitz-heavy approach kept the offense in check. Jackson faced the most defensive back blitzes, 24 by any quarterback since 2015 in the loss. Coach Harbaugh, though, taking all the blame.
My bottom line is this falls squarely on me as the head coach. We were not prepared the way we need to be prepared. Our schemes weren't up to snuff, and we weren't prepared to execute the way we needed to. So that's it. Not on one player. Our players played their hearts out. They worked hard all week. They did everything they could to be prepared, and we just weren't ready.
I was hot. Like we weren't scoring no points. We started putting our defense out there. They played a great game. Like, you know, Dolphins had their little play. They had their great players on offense, but I feel like our defense played lights out, man. We just wasn't getting it done on offense. So that's why I was mad. If you was on offense, you would be mad too.
And look who's here. We had to bring in a champion. Stephen A. couldn't handle
twice.
it. Yeah. Oh, just twice. Don't let me.
Hey, it's okay. Hey.
Don't let me short you the other ring. I won't do that, Rob Ninkovich.
All right.
Tell me this. Okay, after especially what we saw last night, everyone expected Lamar Jackson to ball. He was in his hometown. That did not happen. Does he still have more to prove as a quarterback? Because we were talking him and Brady as MVPs this year.
Yes and no. I would say certain things, like when I watched that game last night, the check with me aspect of a quarterback. You see a front, a double mug, or they're mugged up in the A gap. Mug, I say linebackers in the A gap, linebackers in the B gap. It's a full out, looks like a full out blitz. They're either coming or they're dropping out. There was plenty of times in that game where I said they need to check to a quick slant, or they need to check to something that's going to beat that. If they're coming with all that pressure, get it out of your hands quick. And it just felt like the supporting cast, even the coaching, they had a bad day. And the issue that I'm having with the Ravens at this point, they're digging themselves in a hole early in these games. They could have easily lost 3 or 4 other games that they came back from, and they had the great kick at the end, and overtime Detroit, the victories at the end of the game, the overtime wins. When you have those games, I mean, you all know as a fan, when you're watching a game that's close and they're coming back, that's stressful, right? It's taxing.
Yeah.
The players, it's even more stressful and taxing. So, you know, the Sammy Watkins quick slant, that was a quick hitter. Probably would have got a first down, a vital first down. Yeah. That was the game-changing play. That turnover for the score, the scoop and score, was basically the nail in the coffin for the Ravens. So does Lamar have to answer any questions to me as a football player on the field? We all know he's terrific. It's the supporting cast around him that needs to help him. And I think you saw that on the sidelines. The first time I ever saw him going after a receiver, he's always just kind of cool, calm, and collected. But that wasn't the case last night because I'm sure he's a little frustrated.
Absolutely.
You're wrong. And I'm going to tell you why you're wrong, Rob Nikovich.
I would love to know.
And, because, you're being too kind. You're being too kind because we all want to be kind to Lamar Jackson because he's phenomenal. He's great. He's looking for a new contract. He deserves it. If Josh Allen gets 6 years, $258 million, he probably deserves more because the brother's box office. He's not just great, he's box office. We get all that. Already 600 yards rushing, en route to a third consecutive 1,000-yard rushing season, which, by the way, no quarterback has done. He haven't even had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, let alone 3 in a row. And he's en route to doing that. We get all of that. Here's why I say that you're wrong and you're being too kind. Because at this point in time, it doesn't matter what Lamar Jackson does in the regular season. We all know that. It's about what he does in the postseason. I'm talking to a champion here. I'm talking to a champion.
Two-time champion.
I'm talking to a champion.
Did you learn your lesson or what?
And at the end of the day?
So what I'm saying to you is this. Even though every game week to week is important, any given Sunday, we understand that about the National Football League. Champions play for what? They play for championships. The postseason matters. We already know what this brother can do in the regular season. The question is, can you translate that to the postseason? He did last year, okay? Was it against Tennessee, I believe? He beat them, okay? Outside of that, he was, he's 1-3 in the playoffs overall. First 2 years, relatively young. We all get that. But he was awful against the Chargers in his first postseason game. I forgot it was against the second postseason game. Just wasn't there, okay? We saw We saw an individual that doesn't play the same way in the postseason that he plays in the regular season. And so when we look at Lamar Jackson, the reason why I keep bringing this up, and I don't know why I continuously have to prove this point, it's not like it's Tom Brady who's going to leave in a couple of years, or Drew Brees who was on his way out. Not to say that Lamar Jackson went against them in the postseason. I'm saying Patrick Mahomes is only 26. Josh Allen was 25. Okay, Joe Burrow's coming. Okay, if everybody wants to make noise about Baker Mayfield in Cleveland, go ahead and do it. All right. All I'm trying to say to you is that there are young bloods in the AFC that are expected to be in the postseason that are going to be standing directly in the way of the Baltimore Ravens. And if we want to talk about the parts around him that don't necessarily get it done, well, you do enough to win the games during the regular season, right? So that means the expectation is going to be for you to do it in the postseason. And when you don't do it, even though it may not be your fault because we're looking at the pieces around you, that ain't what we're going to remember. We're going to remember that Lamar Jackson went to the postseason and he went home. So you got to get it done. And that's really what this comes down to. And so I'm looking at him, and I look at last night. Yeah, it was Thursday night, short week, lack of preparation on the part of Coach Harbaugh, who openly admitted that. We get all of that. But in the end, nobody going to want to hear that. We're going to look right at Lamar Jackson, and we're going to ask, did you get it done or didn't you? Simple.
Rob, do you feel like last night was concerning or it was just kind of an ill-prepared trap game? Because we saw a couple good teams lose this past week as well.
No, I think having wide open receivers running wheel routes through your defense is concerning. If you're going to be a playoff team and you're going to win playoff games, you can't. It's not just one-on-one. It's not Lamar versus the other quarterback. Okay. It is you need a defense that plays well, right? You need a defense that doesn't let people run through the center or run a wheel route through a zone, and the second guy through the zone, nobody covers them. They don't even see him. So those are issues that when the games are on the line and it's a playoff game, one play. That's what decides playoff games. One play goes for you or goes against you. And when your defense isn't playing great, which I don't think the Ravens' defense is necessarily playing great right now, I think their offense is kind of struggling. They've lost pieces, and it's not because they had those issues. They had ACLs. They lose Peterson. They lose key pieces defensively. When you have those pieces, it's hard to replace, especially when you can't go out and get somebody. They relied on some people. They're not there. So is there any excuses made? No, because everyone's going to have issues. Everyone's going to have injuries. But as this team moves forward, we're looking at a division where everybody has the same record. It's up in the air.
For grabs.
It's up for grabs.
You don't really know who
the AFC in general looks like it's that same way. It's up in the air. Who's going to be the best coach team? Who's going to be the best prepared team? who's going to be able to play when the games are on the line. And I usually go with consistency. At this point right now, I don't know what the Ravens are.
So who
I don't
is
know
that?
what they are.
We got to go to break, I know. But who would be the one team right now if you had to
I'm
put
going
money
with
on
the
the
best
line?
record in the AFC. That would be the Titans. I think they have the great coaching staff. They have a defense that's completely flipped and done a complete 180 on what they were doing last year. They got a great pass rush. They have 11 turnovers in the last 6 games. That's how you win football games. Turn the football over, giving your offense more chances.
Such a shame they lost King Henry.
That is
but
a
we'll
problem.
see if they can
That
keep
is
it
a problem.
moving with,
I think the
with
Patriots
AP
are going
because they
up
did it.
too.
Absolutely. Same page. All right, guys. Some compelling returns still to get into here shortly. Russell Wilson, he's back. Aaron Rodgers may be back. And obviously Cam is a Panther again. Talking return shortly. Plus the Rams, they're rather stacked now on both sides of the ball. Are they a no-brainer NFC favorite, or is there someone else the fellas have their eyes on? Stay tuned. Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday, followed by Patrick Mahomes, but their defensive end Randy Gregory has been placed on injured reserve with a calf injury. Huge hit there. He's going to miss the next 3 games. Since you can't be unbiased, I'm going to start with Rob here. Rob, should Cowboys fans be nervous? How big of a hit is this for this team? Seriously, don't acknowledge him.
They should be nervous of having this man right here putting on a hat and saying, "How about them Cowboys?"
Yeah.
His little laugh that he does when he talks about the Cowboys. Because just like a corner, a defensive end pass rusher is a very important piece to your defense. And when you can rush with 4 guys and get to the quarterback, that relieves so much pressure on your back end, on your cornerbacks, on your safety, on your linebackers. I know they got linebackers that they can move around and you can scheme stuff up and you can win with scheme. But on the flip side of that, when you lose pass rushers, that's a problem. You're losing vital piece of your defense to help get the other offense off the field, gives your offense more of an opportunity, and turnovers. When I watch the Cowboys play the Patriots, his impact, this play right here, what changed the game. That play changed the game. So when you're missing a piece that could change the game, I think the Cowboys, if they lose 2 games in a row, that is going to be time to have a little bit of concern because their season at that point slipping a little bit.
Yeah. I need to pull up the schedule. Stephen A., are you concerned? What are you Googling away?
Listen, here's the deal. This is what people don't miss. How often do I sit up there and say, just wait, just be patient. Just be patient. Just be patient. It'll happen. There's always something. There's always something. There's positive COVID tests. There's potential COVID exposure. There's a calf injury. There's performance-enhancing drug use, which a player had this year. I'm not going to throw any names because we don't want to throw anybody under the bus. It's a Friday. Looking forward to a good weekend. Don't want to mess with anything. Cowboys going to fall, y'all. You can book it. I just love it. It's like every single week there's something. There's absolutely positively something that happens with this team. Now, I give it credit where credit is due, okay? Because, you're going to Minnesota with a backup quarterback. We didn't anticipate that. We didn't anticipate they were going to go into Minnesota and handle their business the way that they did.
They won.
And they won. That's what I said. I gave it said they handled their business. Major props to them. I get all of that without Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott comes back. He looks awful. They get shellacked. They open the season. Everybody's raving about how they look because Dak Prescott was injured last year. And then he comes back and doesn't play too much in the preseason, actually not at all. And then he comes, plays the first game of the season, plays lights out. We get all of that. All I'm saying to you is this. People are missing the bevy of things that have happened to this team this year. And this is the problem. Let me tell you something about the city of Dallas. Okay. Now, me personally, I love the city. It's a metropolis. There's no state income tax. I definitely am a proponent of that. I like that. It's a place where you can keep most of your money. The property that you buy is very spacious and all of that other. You got it, right?
What is this
Lots to do in Dallas. It's very, very nice.
It's a metropolis.
It's very nice, right?
Where does this guy come from?
Here's the deal. You can be in Dallas, and I mean, if you're winning, the Cowboys take these Cowboy fans, the sorry, pathetic people that they are. These people, I mean, every week is like a Super Bowl. It's like, you see us, where we come, Stephen. I've got old women, white and black. Have that, them Cowboys. You understand? I got brothers, I got sisters, everything. Everybody loves it. and everybody gets caught up. There's a few Hollywood stars who will remain nameless that contaminated my phone, calling me to brag about the Cowboys. Everybody gets excited like they won something, okay? This is what they do. This is how they act. And all you're doing is setting up the fall. And boy, is it going to be steep. It's going to be hardcore. They are going to suffer. I can't wait. And Randy Gregory's the lady. You know the best thing you can say about Randy Gregory? Best thing you can say about the Randy Gregory injury? I'm glad it was something football related. I'm glad it was something football related. You know, he got hurt. It's a legitimate calf injury. We wish him well, because I want them all on the field when they lose. I don't want anybody hurt. I want anybody hurt, Rob. I want them all there. I want DeMarcus Cousins there. I want Randy Gregory there. I want Ezekiel Elliott. I want Dak. I want all of them there. Because I don't want excuses. Rob. And it's not even about the Cowboys. Again, it's their fan base. I don't want any excuses. I don't want any excuses when it happens. And I'm telling you right now, they're going
that's
to
enough.
fall.
That's enough. We just look what just happened with the Ravens. How many teams had bad losses, upset losses? The Raiders lost to my Giants.
Right. None of them have the contaminated fan base that the Dallas Cowboys have.
Dak Prescott had been off. He came back. In your bevy of injury, it was a calf strain in practice. You can't do that this time. This isn't your favorite story about the cologne and the draws. It's not that this time.
No, it's not that. I wish it was. I really would.
No,
That would have really, because that really would have had me cracking up laughing. That really would have had me cracking up laughing. I mean, to get caught, get busted stealing cologne in a pair of drawers. I'm not done yet.
It's
an all-time story.
So you really don't believe in the Cowboys?
No, I do believe that the Dallas Cowboys have the potential. I understand.
To what? To do what?
To win it all.
Okay.
To win it all. I don't believe they will. I believe Tampa Bay, Green Bay, or the Rams or Arizona will knock them off. That's my personal belief. Yeah. I don't even think the Cowboys going to win a playoff game. But I know they got because they're going to run into one of those teams. I just know they got the potential.
He better not buy any property in Dallas, all right? Because
seriously,
I don't know.
but really, where I know we're talking about Randy Gregory, the 3 games, but where are you on the Cowboys in the NFC picture, and how do you see that stacking up?
I was very high on the Cowboys up until I saw that game against the Broncos, and I'm watching the game because I was working the Philly Chargers game, and I'm watching on the television. I keep saying to myself, "Oh, they'll turn it on. They're going to turn it on. Second half, they'll turn it on. Third quarter, they'll show signs of life." It never happened, and I think that was the more concerning thing to me, because any team that has the ability to go into a matchup and never turn it on, they scored 2 touchdowns late, but it didn't matter at that point. That's a problem, because if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, what do? In the playoffs last year, years before, they turned it on when they had to.
Yeah.
The Tampa Bay Bucks last year when they won the Super Bowl, what did they do? There were moments in the season, there were some question marks. They turned it on when they had to. And if you're going to be a good team, you're going to play in the playoffs, you've got to be able to turn it on.
In all seriousness, their offense is lethal.
Yeah.
Their defense, the only reason we've bragged about their defense is because they ain't what they were last year. Because they were so god-awful under Mike Nolan. But now they got Quinn, they got Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons. We know that they're better, but they can still be exposed. They're still one of the worst pass defenses in the National Football League, and you still have Mike McCarthy to deal with as well. There's a lot of question marks about him. I'm looking at those 2 things, and I'm saying, come playoff time, they fall.
Yeah.
Clock management.
Yeah.
2 games.
They have the Falcons this weekend. I think they'll be okay.
Win that game.
They should, if not.
They should.
Get your hat ready.
They should.
Okay.
Don't need the hat next time.
Still ahead.
Got something else.
It has an